I told myself that I would be making Cuban bread for this. I told myself that a lot. The problem is my goals and plans for this channel are
this big.
The actual realistic time to get them done are
This big.
So if you haven't guessed it already, this is Eating America, and we're heading due south from our last culinary destination to sunny, warm Florida, home of every rich white retiree. And we're heading into Tampa to make some iconic culinary Cuban sandwiches, if I can spit it out. So guys, if you're excited about this like I am, go ahead and hit like, share, and subscribe, and let's eat America. Alright, so like I mentioned earlier, there isn't going to be like any Cuban bread for this because I don't have the resources, or there's none available. There's no, local shops that sell anything like this. So we're going to be serving ours on ciabatta bread. I've made these Cubanos a few times, and each time that I've made it, it's been on ciabatta, so we're keeping it real, keeping it classic. Honestly, the very first Cubano that I have ever had was on a ciabatta roll, so it's kind of like full circle. So we're going to recreate that original OG Cuban sandwich experience, but we're going to be doing it all from scratch, except for the bread. So before we get started into cooking our Cubanos, we need to take a trip back to last night, where I made this amazing mojo marinade. And if you're wondering why there's a voiceover on this next section while I'm obviously talking to the camera, that is because I was so tired I forgot to turn the mic on to the camera, so I spent all that time with no audio. So just think of it as one of those old Godzilla movies or one of those old Bruce Lee movies where there's really bad overdubs and voice acting, and yeah, that's what this next part's gonna be. So without further ado, let's jump back to last night. Alright, I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. I am not trying to read my lips and recreate what I said to the camera that night. For starters, I don't even remember. And two, let's just go ahead and jump right to the all-important mojo marinade. You can't have a Cubano without it. Don't pay no mind to the Instant Pot next to me. It has no bearing on this recipe whatsoever. I was actually setting the stage the night before for another video the same day that I actually recorded the last part of this video. I keep busy, y'all. I be making mad content for you guys. Anyhow, let's shift our focus back to the marinade. So in this measuring cup, I have 1 cup each of orange and lime juice. Now guys, if you have fresh oranges and limes around your house, please, nothing beats fresh squeezed. I'm using the bottled stuff because it's all I had on hand, and guys, don't worry, it works just fine. I actually am a big drinker of orange juice, and the kind that I prefer is homestyle with the pulp, so that kind of makes up for the lack of fresh limes. Now, if you're using limes, you at least want to juice 2 to 3 limes and use the zest of said limes. It would make a big difference. Alright, so into our cup of combined citrus juices, we're going to add in our mojo seasoning. In this container, we have 1.5 tablespoons of kosher salt. I know that sounds like a lot of salt, especially for pork, which is already naturally salty, but this is a big cut of pork, and it's going to be very hard to over-season that. Trust me, guys. This will work out. And also in this container is a tablespoon each of onion powder, dried oregano, and cumin. And we're going to go ahead and get that mixed in. Guys, if you have fresh oregano leaves, that would also be best. But dry stuff works great. Again, I've made this marinade at least 2 or 3 times, and I made it this exact way, and it works out. Now the next step might also be a little alarming to you. That is 6 tablespoons of minced garlic. You guys remember that video with the healthy snack wraps where I said I was working through the last of that garlic so I could move on to, fresh garlic and doing the garlic press thing like everybody else does? Yeah, well, you know what I found after that video? A whole nother jar of garlic, but you know what? This turns out fine. It may sound like a lot, and in most cases, 6 tablespoons of garlic or even fresh garlic is, excessive, but this kind of combines in with that marinade and it becomes something magical. So don't worry about, the amount. To give you guys some reference here, most from scratch mojo marinades use at least 3 to 4 heads of garlic. That's how much garlic is combined in a traditional mojo. So don't worry about this. Alright, so next in is a bunch of, just 1 package of organic mint leaves. So it's a small bunch that I just, chopped into a nice chiffonade. and I'm going to add that straight into our juice and spice mixture. Now guys, this might seem a little off-putting, but you're not even going to taste the mint. It's not going to be like a citrus, you know, candy cane pork marinade. Once this all kind of mingles together and combines with the pork and cooks down and renders, it becomes this magically amazing flavor, guys. I can't even describe how good this tastes. It's just cooking magic. That's the only way I know how. And then on top of all of this, we're going to combine in 1 cup of a good extra virgin olive oil, and that is our marinade. So let's move over to the pork. All right, so what I have in front of me is a roughly 6.5 pound bone-in pork shoulder, otherwise known as a Boston butt. Ideally, you're going to want the boneless Boston butt for this. Now, I don't know if you guys are encountering the same issues at the store as I am, but I can't find a boneless Boston butt / pork shoulder to save my life. But don't worry, the bone-in stuff works just as well. So the first thing we're going to do is make some nice sized cuts into the top of that fat cap, because it's not just enough to marinate the whole piece of pork. We need to get that inside the meat so it can properly season and marinate and get tender. So I'm busting out a really sharp knife. Yes, the Damascus steel knife has been brought out yet again because it is the only knife that I have that can cut through literally anything like it's paper. And as you can see, we made some nice hefty incisions in our pig. So the next thing to do is to set it in a mixing bowl and submerge it completely, making sure we work all that great marinade into those cuts we put in it, put a lid on it, and put it in the fridge to marinate overnight. Now guys, you could totally buy mojo marinade in the store pre-made, but guys, I would highly recommend against that. The from scratch way is always the best, but if you got a bottle of mojo sitting around, I think Goya makes it, then use it. But if you really want a true flavor experience, make it yourself and make it your own. So guys, let's fast forward back to tomorrow and let's get to cooking this pork. This is our Cuban pork after it's been marinating in the fridge all night. Well, you can already tell that it's getting a lot softer and that a lot of this marinade has been getting into those, you know, those claw marks we put into it. So we're going to drop it into this pot, and then we're just going to shower it with the rest of our mojo marinade. And we should still have pork exposed. And we're going to toss this in the oven on 400 degrees for about the first 10 minutes. And then we're going to drop it down to 275, and we're going to be cooking this for about 3 hours. And I'll be turning it occasionally, probably about once an hour. All right, so while this is braising off in the oven, I'm going to be making some homemade pickles. And if you have not seen my recipe for homemade pickles, I have a card floating around to the last video they were featured in, and I'll link in the description, because we're not running to the store for anything else. All right? We've got store-bought bread, we got store-bought cheese. Everything else is going to be on us. So I'll see you guys again after about 3 hours. All right, so our mojo pork just got out of the oven after a 3-hour cook time, and I'll be honest with you guys, because of the setbacks of the day, this dish literally should have been done 3 hours ago. That's how much time we lost today. But it's not a total loss because, again, if you guys enjoyed the bean dip video that I was talking about in that terrible voiceover, you don't need to thank me. You need to thank Miss Mad Chef, because she was the one that actually saved all that footage. Because when I tell you that all that stuff was on the verge of being just completely destroyed and losing all that work, and it was a very important video, it was a request video, don't thank me for that content this time. Credit goes where credit's due, so please thank Miss Mad Chef for that, because she saved the day, and we are recording again in 4K. So it's coming around, okay? We're getting some things done, albeit late, but give her some props. I love her. We keep her around for a reason. I might be biased because I'm married to her, but, I mean, she's pretty awesome. So, I mean, give her a holler in the comments if you appreciate her like I do, and if you enjoyed that video. Because while I might have recorded it and came up with it, she was the one that saved it and brought it to you. And that's just as important. All right, so now let's take a test and see how done our pork is. Like I told you in that also very poorly recorded voiceover. Well, that's one part. A good barometer for doneness of your pork is how quickly we can pull out that pork bone. And right now, it is completely falling apart as I'm trying to get it out. which tells you one thing and one thing only. It's done. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to transfer this pork into this bowl, take out the bone, shred it, and then we're going to assemble these Cubans, these Cubanos. It's been way too long of a wait, and I'm starving, and hopefully you enjoy this version of it. So we've got our nice mojo pork shredded up. So one of the things that's really important to do, now keep in mind, this pork is already juicy, but add a little hit of that caramelized mojo sauce to your pork to keep, the moisture in, and then two, it keeps that flavor. All right, so the other thing is, I did misspeak before I put this pork in the oven. I did tell you guys to set your ovens to 275. That was wrong. For a 3-hour cook time like this, you need to set it to 350. If you want to cook it for a little lower and a little slower, 275 is the way, but that gives you more of a 6 to 8 hour cook time. And if you want Cubans same night and you're really craving it, do it this way because it gets you the same result but faster and doesn't sacrifice quality. All right, we're going to get this cleaned up and then we're going to start assembling our sandwiches. All right, so obviously there are some things we've got to do first before we can assemble our Cubans. All right, so I've got a little bit of butter here, and then we're just going to add in a couple pieces of ham. We're just going to sear this off maybe a couple minutes at a time. I'm using some Black Forest ham. Traditionally, this is done with boiled ham, regular cooked ham, but I really wasn't too fond of the result using that. And this Black Forest ham has a little more flavor. So what we've got going on in pan number 2 here is we got some more butter happening, and we're going to be toasting the inside of our ciabatta Cuban bread, if you would, because we need to toast the inside before we can actually put all of this together. It's kind of a process, but it's super delicious. All right, so the butter for the ciabatta bread is done first. So we're going to go ahead and start toasting off our ciabatta face side down. Our ciabatta bread is done toasting. Our ham is still crisping up just a little bit. We're just looking for a little bit of color. Nothing too crazy. We're not trying to get it real crispy or anything. We're just trying to give it some nice color and just a little bit of flavor. Okay, our ham is done. We're going to put it on a separate plate and get this off the heat. So now we've got to start assembling our Cubans. It's a little bit of a process, but this is going to turn out pretty amazing. All right, so bottom bun. First thing is we're going to go with a little bit of yellow mustard. We need acidity on both ends because of all that rich, kind of fatty pork. So on top of this yellow mustard, I'm going to add on 2 slices of Swiss cheese because that is traditional. All right, and then I'm going to add on our perfectly seared cooked ham. All this lines the bottom like so. And then we're going to go ahead and start piling on a hearty handful, or the hearty pinch, of this beautiful mojo pork. The goal here is to make sure we get it as loaded as possible, but to make sure that we can also close this bad boy. This sandwich in and of itself is a meal. It's super filling. It's super good. And it's honestly in my top 2, if you want me to be honest, of favorite sandwiches. It's either that or an Italian sandwich, and this is more like an eating experience, and there's nothing that's quite like a Cuban. All right, so we're going to go in with these homemade dill pickles, guys. I'm telling you, you've got to watch that video with the Irish burgers and the pub cheese sauce, because the first thing I do is show you how to make these incredible house-made pickles, and once you learn to make them, you're not going to go back or even want the store brand stuff. Guaranteed. I've not really bought store brand pickles since I've learned how to make my own. All right, so we're not done yet. You might think we're done, but we're not done. One more thing. We've got to butter up both sides of our bread because it's about to get plancha'd to perfection. So I'm going to add like a little bit up at the top. Should have been a little bit more room temperature. It would have worked a lot better, but hey, we're working on limited time here. So we do what we got to do. All right, so I've got a little knob of it going down bottom, and I want to show you how we're going to prepare this sandwich. All right, so after making several of these Cuban sandwiches, I realized I need a sandwich press, a panini press. This ain't it, y'all. This is an $8 mini me college dorm sandwich maker. The one I wanted was this one, and that runs about $30. This is $8. So honestly, you're not only getting a sandwich tutorial, you're getting a kitchen gadget review of whether if this is it or if it's shit. So as soon as you plug this sucker in, it's already starting to get hot. So we want to go ahead and place our perfect Cubano sandwich. And we're going to press away. And it doesn't even close. Hold on. We're going to just push this back a little bit. This is the problem with limited counter space, is that I have literally nowhere to put this thing. So it's automatically not getting any points for structural integrity and or just really usability. This is not a very big sandwich. All right, so we can do this for a little bit. Move it. So yeah, definitely, even if you're using ciabatta bread, obviously, and making a smaller version of this Cuban sandwich, you still need a bigger sandwich press than this. But hey, $8 is $8, and maybe it was the good Lord's way of saying, hey dude, stop spending so damn much on kitchen gear. I will say though, obviously this is a much cleaner solution than doing the 2-pan plancha, but I'm sorry guys, this ain't hitting on much. But it is getting the job done, albeit slowly. Okay guys, I think we have a sandwich here, so we're going to take this off the heat, and then we're going to just try it. Alright, so this is it. This is the Cuban sandwich, cooked in a lackluster panini press, but hey, a method's a method, and it not only is it quicker than the 2-pan stove method, it is a bit cleaner. And I do have a nicer looking stove afterwards, so cheers. Okay. So I did talk a lot of shit about that sandwich maker, but the bread is toasted perfectly. It could have done a little bit better on the cheese, but the meat's hot. Everything is hot. Again, there's nothing on this planet that eats like a Cuban. Obviously, number one on my sandwich list. This has been Eating America. Guys, if there's a certain state and a certain iconic food from the U.S. that you would like to see featured on this channel, please comment them below. I am taking requests. And guys, as always this year, if your request videos are being made, your name is going to be tagged in the title because we're cool like that. As always, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.